All right, so next interview is amazing. This is Dr. Dan Pompa, and when I first met Dr. Pompa, I felt immediately like I met a brother from another mother. He's a special friend. He's actually here in Sarasota doing some vacationing, and so I actually have the opportunity of having him here live. And he's also been co-hosted a couple of interviews, so I hope you enjoy that. But what we're going to be talking about in this interview is just so important. You really want to pay attention. You want to take notes. We're going to be covering a lot more than what I thought we were, and it's probably one of the most important videos for you to really pay attention to, so enjoy this. I know you did a Facebook Live and had a ridiculous 100 or 200, was it 100 or 200?
Yeah, almost 200,000 views.
200,000 viewers. What does that take? That's very interesting to find out.
Well, when you know my story, right, which we'll discuss more, pain to purpose is part of my life, right? Mm-hmm. But look, I think when you and I, we've been through a lot in our lives. When you come to something that's hard, where we are as a country, a world right now, you view it a little differently, I think, than most people. And right now, I look at times like this as opportunities. Opportunities not to take advantage of people, not opportunities in a bad way, opportunities to think different. Opportunities that I look at as God's promise in my life. So in that particular video, there's something biblically, it's that rock kazakamats, meaning when someone was about to move into their promise in the Bible, they had great resistance at that time. And I believe at this time right here, for many people watching this, is a time, great resistance, fear, right? I mean, everything can come upon us. I think we've all been through that, the fear mode. But when you've been through this before, you look at it as a time that you'll break through that into a promise God has for you. So when he would, biblically, as for example, as Israel was moving into their promise, Moses literally on his deathbed spoke rock kazakamats to the people. And the English translation means be strong and courageous, but the Hebrew translation means so much more than that. He means he broke through the fear. Because they were moving into literally 31 armies that wanted them dead. I mean, so their fear was like, we're not going. All they could see was the fear, right? Like most people right now, right? We see the fear and we get overwhelmed with the fear. But Moses spoke to them, rock kazakamats, meaning I've gone for you. Move into it, right? This is a time I feel we can move into it. But again, it takes a reframing to think of it, because we read the media, we get uptight. But I think that, it is an opportunity where people can reframe this as an opportunity, reframe the way they think about things, and reframe their life. This could be a tipping point for them in a good way. So that was my advice. And that video caught a lot of ground. So rock kazakamats, God's already gone for it. He knows. Trust him.
That's such a beautiful story, and I resonate with that story, because there's been a lot of times in my life where I was presented with challenges, and I was scared,
That's the point.
Or there was a new skill that I needed to learn, and it was just like, I don't know, you have that little kid inside where you're like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that. And I think we all have those little voices inside that are making us double think whether we're making the right choice or whether something's safe to do. And in this pandemic we have so much fear, and it's being fueled by the media. And so the fear itself, we're going to get into some more nitty gritty with health, and we'll be able to kind of give you guys some strategies that you can use at home. But there's a hormone, it's called cortisol, and cortisol is something that goes up, and when it's up in a state of fear, in a state of stress, a little bit of cortisol it's necessary. It's usually high in the morning, but it's supposed to tailor off. And what they find with people that have health consequences is they're constantly being triggered through their adrenal glands, which their cortisol is constantly high and elevated, and this damages your thyroid, your gut. It just on down the run, your immune system just gets paralyzed. So I'd love to get your take on that as well.
To change that, what you just described, is you have to be intentional about it. So you have to immediately start to change the way you're thinking about this pandemic right now, right? So you heard me, I immediately thought, I've been here before in my life differently, right? But I immediately thought there's opportunity for me to grow, right? The soil is ripe for creativity. If you look back at the history of man, during times of great crisis, were also birthed the greatest times in history. So who were those people that changed the world after those times, right? If you think about after World War II, and by no means am I comparing any of these times with this time, I think it's very different, but the point is that people, came out, they took great opportunity of those times, and they changed and made a difference in the world. I think we're here. I do. And my heart bleeds for people who don't work right now, who have lost loved ones, right? So that's not my point, but we have to move on. And are you going to be the one as a part of the solution? The soil's ripe to make a difference and a change. And I teach doctors around the world, and I'm just seeding into them. Intentionally think different. The moment you can change the way you think, then the moment your cortisol levels actually normalize. It's true. Because me and my family, we have chosen intentionally to look at this as a time to become better as a family, to become better as, me, immune system better, physically, emotionally, everything. And guess what? It's happening. It's happening. And I don't want to flaunt it. I don't want to do anything, but I can tell you, if you spoke to anyone in my family, we look different, we feel different, we speak different, but that's intentional.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, I think the quality of your life is going to be in direct proportion to the amount of uncertainty that you can comfortably live with.
Yeah.
Right? And so, in essence, it's this uncertain world that we're in. And, your family is dealing with that uncertainty by looking at the silver linings.
Well, and you've had a little bit of time to be around my family. The people here were like, oh my gosh, you guys are a light right now. So, intentionally I do. I want to be a light at a dark time. I want to be a light in a dark world. I want to be a light when I can. And again, that's the way we think, right? It's when I want people to watching this to not, when I was sick, I didn't go through it with bells and whistles, when I was challenged and sick, my wife literally, she, on her knees praying because our life changed drastically. I wasn't going through it very well. I literally wanted to die when I was sick, and I know you can resonate with that. I didn't want to die. I just didn't want to live another day like I felt. I would have rather have died. Yeah. And, so I became very negative, right? And she literally had a word spoken to her spirit that God is not only going to save me, but he's going to take a message to the world through me. And okay, so I didn't see it at that point. That's why I'm not boasting of my faith here by any means. But out of it, she was right. Out of it has come a mission. Out of it has come me teaching doctors everything I learned in my own battle. Out of it, I'm sitting here. Out of it, I have the view I have of this situation that we're in.
Yeah.
So pain to purpose, to what I say promise, that rock Kazakh, right? God does have a promise for everyone watching this right now. Everyone, God has a promise for you, but we hit the resistance, we hit fear, and we have to look at that differently. Yeah. And know God has something else.
And this you might be watching this video during the current crisis here. You might be watching this years later in the wake of it. The material that we're talking about is really timeless. It'll never be bad advice. And so both Dr. Pompa and I, we shared a very, very difficult journey where we were going to many, many doctors and looking at many different, trying different modalities, and nothing really worked. And it was just a long battle where there was times during my journey where I was completely hopeless. I thought that I was dying. I thought that the quality of my life, I had no quality of life. I think I had mentioned to you, I was sitting on a bench one time at a park, and I was just walking, I was watching somebody just walk normally down the sidewalk and looking at that and just thinking, God, it would be nice if I could just even walk like that, because I had so much pain in my back.
Yeah, my gosh.
And so, and then finding out that I had such high viral titers, just off the chart. The Lyme disease, the mold illness, all of it was they call it SARS, chronic inflammatory response syndrome. So, Dr. Pompa went through a similar journey, but what I'm trying to make a point of is what I've learned through that process is so many skills that really match what needs to be disseminated as far as information right now. you know, and
Well, that's why you're doing this. You wouldn't be doing this if you didn't go through that, right? You know, you said something there, right, about the viral loads. When I was sick, I too, Epstein-Barr, cytomegalovirus, all of these things were positive. Lyme at that time, and this is years ago. And I, of course, spent time trying to battle those back, which sometimes, I mean, I had ridiculous candida. I'd beat it back, it'd come back. I had parasites, beat it back, they'd come back. And it was only looking upstream further when I realized, okay, what was affecting my terrain. So here we are at a time like this, right, when people, you know, these viruses, these pathogens, they're opportunists. They manifest themselves. They find a weak soil, if you will, and that's the people who will be most affected.
Yeah.
Right. So how did I get well? How did you get well? Ultimately, we had to clean the terrain. Right. That's my passion of detox, honestly, because that was upstream for me.
Yeah.
You know, if I didn't get rid of the deep-rooted neurotoxic issues that I had, I would have fought candida. I would have fought the pathogens.
Well, let me just for those watching, you know, it's important to understand our deep philosophy with this area, because we both have very similar views on this, and so many people are walking around and they've got different diseases and they are sick and very, very susceptible to getting an infection, and so we believe that that's not just happenstance. That's something that there's reasons for it. You don't just get autoimmune disease. You don't just get a lot of these diseases that a lot of people are taking a lot of meds for that are just kind of blocking the disease process for no reason. You know, we live in a very toxic environment. These toxins accumulate in the body, and they'll actually distribute to certain areas of the body depending on your genes and your work and your posture and all these different
and by the way, then we diagnose it based on what's going on. So if they manifest in the brain, there's several things that can happen there, right? From Parkinson's, you know, MS, I mean, you name it, right?
Yeah.
If they go to other organs and tissues, your thyroid, then you have Hashimoto's, right? So, you know, it can manifest itself differently depending on what tissues the toxins affect.
So the real point is that the toxic environment, wherever it settles, is a beautiful terrain for infection. And this is how it works, folks. Like, this is really, I'd say 90%, maybe more. I mean, it'd be interesting to actually be able to do some deeper research with this, but toxins and infections are the top of the list for just about every condition that comes to see me. You've got this really deadly cytokine storm everybody's talking about, right? So there's certain viruses that just, in the COVID-19 is one that's just a very, very strong cytokine storm. Right. So not everybody's going to have that cytokine storm. So what's the difference between someone that gets that cytokine storm and actually gets to the point where they're in the hospital versus someone that's just, you know, that maybe doesn't even get very sick?
Great question. One of the things I teach my doctors is you want to measure somebody's inflammation. And there's a simple test we do called a meta-oxy test, right? Very inexpensive test. And it's a way of measuring cellular inflammation. And that means inflammation. Cytokines are inflammatory, right? So this cytokine reaction, they're basically speaking about an immune reaction that creates this inflammation reaction, specifically in the lungs in this case. But so who's going to get that reaction more? It's people who are already inflamed, right? You know, again, we talked about some of those categories. So ultimately what drives, the number one, this is what I teach, the number one cause of cellular inflammation is toxins. You know, I mean, diet's huge, but toxins actually cause cellular inflammation more so than diet. And even when we look at why people can't lose weight, why people have hormone challenges, toxins actually lead the way. So this detox, if you really want to improve your immune system long term, you have to detox the cells. And my saying is you have to detox the cells to get well. You know, and that's ultimately, you know, if you fix the cells, you get well. So that's the key.
Well, so, you know, within that, you know, I'd like to dig in a little deeper with that. So there's avoiding toxins, right? So if you're not avoiding toxins, then that's a problem. You know, so understanding how to, so I'd like you to maybe kind of talk about that a little bit, how we can avoid toxins, and then also maybe some strategies on how you can detox, because I know, like, out of anybody I know, I mean, I've traveled and I've met a lot of the top, you know, scientists and doctors in this country, and you have the best detox protocols that I've ever seen.
Well, and pain to purpose. I always say if you gave me $1 billion and said learn everything about detox, I would have fallen short. But I had to save my own life. So that's our point from the beginning of this conversation. Look, let's start with some avoidance, because I think that's some things people can do right now, right? I think more important than ever, eating real organic, certified organic is really important. There's a chemical called glyphosate. All right, glyphosate. We will find out as time goes on, that this exposure to glyphosate can make you more susceptible to any virus. Why? Because it opens up your barriers. That's what it does. It opens up your gut barrier. That's what glyphosate does. It opens up your blood-brain barrier. It opens up all of your protective barriers. And that means it opens your immune system up to problems. And so avoidance of glyphosate. And how do you do it? Will you be perfectly avoiding it when you eat 100% organic? No, because there's some spray over, but massive. If you just eat an organic diet, you will massively limit the exposure to that very dangerous chemical.
Well, that's great. That's great advice. What are some other ways that we can avoid toxins?
Look, if you look at what we're exposing you to in our own homes, what are you washing your dishes with? Because you can buy safe things, and it doesn't cost that much more. That film on your dishes and the things you're drinking out of every day goes in you and your family. It's a big deal. So your dishwasher is potentially one of the most toxic things in your home. Here's the other one. What are you washing your clothes in? In fabric softeners, there's 6 neurotoxins on average in these types of detergents and the fabric softeners. And endocrine disruptors, meaning they make you fat. That's what an endocrine disruptor is. So I can smell them a mile away when people come near me. We have a saying, bounce, bounce, baby. But I was in my office, my staff would warn me that someone was coming at me that used bounce. But they're endocrine disruptors, and here's why they're lethal. Yes, you bring them in, as you smell them all day long from your clothes, and it's going right into your lungs and therefore into your bloodstream. However, you're also absorbing them. If you use a transdermal hormone cream, you rub it on your skin, it's right into the blood, and that's what's happening. So these endocrine disruptors, they're going right into you. And by the way, they're immune disruptors. So change what you're using in your washer and dryer. Change what you're using in your dishwasher, and change what you're using on your counters. You can even use a simple vinegar peroxide solution. It's cheaper than what you're buying. Those 3 changes right there, that's a massive thing.
That was just an amazing interview. And if you're really enjoying this is part 1, you're going to want to subscribe so that you can watch part 2 when it comes out, where Dr. Dan and I take a deep dive into the microbiome, how to detox, and other ways that you can avoid toxins to regain your health. Or maybe you already have great health, but you're looking to be even healthier. Anyway, definitely subscribe so you get this and all the great interviews that we're going to be coming out with in 2021.